So, to understand the secret of life, the secret of how the world was created, the secret of existence and reality, basically the secret behind everything, we just need to look at one simple thing: the material itself, the matter that everything is made of, all people and everything around us. As we all know, all matter is made of atoms. The way those atoms connect and join together, their type, their number, that's what makes every single thing in the world. That's basic science, just simple physics. We don't need to get too deep into it, because the structure of the atom, the way it's built, is what makes everything that exists. So even a small, simple understanding of how it's built, which is the foundation of all creation, is enough to help us see and understand the secret behind everything, the very essence of creation. So, what actually is an atom, really, in the context of what we want to say? Basically, every atom is made up of three main aspects. The first aspect is the nucleus, the center of the atom. You can imagine it like the sun. It carries a positive charge. It contains protons, which are positive, and neutrons, which they are neutral. Then there are the electrons, which have a negative charge. They move around the nucleus, like planets moving around the sun. And the negative charge of the electrons is actually equal to the positive charge in the nucleus within the proton. So when you put them together, the total electric charge of the atom in almost every case is zero. In other words, the plus and the minus balance each other out, and the total electric charge equals zero. So we have inside the atom a positive part, a plus, that's the nucleus. It has more tiny parts inside it, but that's not important for us right now. And then there's the negative charge part, the electrons, that the ratio between them is roughly like this. Imagine the nucleus is a tiny marble and the electrons are moving around it 100 meters away. So what's in the middle between the nucleus and the electrons? In the middle there's empty space, a void. What does it mean, empty space? It's not air. Air is also matter. Empty means nothing, truly nothing at all. And it turns out that about 99.999% of every atom is completely empty space. So, if we talk simply, a question comes up. If a person is standing on the ground, or let's say sitting on a chair, and both the ground and the chair are made of matter, wood, metal, whatever, and the base of all of it is made of certain atoms, then the chair I'm sitting on right now, simply put, is 99.999% completely empty space. So how come I can sit and not fall through? How does something that's made almost entirely of empty space seem solid, something that blocks, like something you can touch and sit on? How come I'm not falling? Or for example, why can't I walk through a wall? If it's almost entirely empty space, then I can pass through any material. Well, the answer to this is really the key to understanding the entire mystery of the whole universe. Because that empty space between the proton and the electron, which is strange because it looks as if it's completely empty, somehow holds everything together. It keeps the distance between the electron and the proton so precise, so unbelievably exact, that we can't even imagine it. Because an atom, I think, is smaller than a millionth of a human hair, maybe even smaller. So how does this force, the one within the empty space, which is really just nothing and doesn't seem to have any power at all, how does it keeps the exact balance between the proton and the electron? It keeps them in a perfect precise distance, so that the electrons don't stick to the proton, which has a positive charge, and in the same time don't move too far away, not even a little, because if they did, they would escape the proton's gravitational, pull, and all matter would disappear. So basically, what do we see here? We see that reality is made of three main parts that are four. The three is the essence of every kind of matter. There's the positive charge, that's the proton, the part in the center, the nucleus. Then there's the negative charge, the electron moving around it, and between them there's empty space. Each type of atom has its own number of protons and electrons. Their number and the way they come together decides what kind of material it becomes. Now, what do we learn from this? That at the base of everything, at the foundation of creation, matter is perfectly balanced. Why is it balanced? Because the foundation, the base of all matter in the world, the atom, has a total electric charge of 0. The positive charge, the plus, and the negative charge, the minus, cancel each other out. They balance each other, so in the end, the atom's overall electric charge is 0. So, what does it really mean? A positive charge and a negative charge? You could say they are the thing and its opposite. Everything that exists has both sides. All things and their opposites are like the plus and minus that lies at the base of all matter in the world. And soon we'll see that the greatest secret of all, the secret of the empty space, is what forces this perfect balance, that equal distance between the proton and the electron. That distance is exactly like, let's say, the distance between the Earth and the Sun. Because, as we know, if the distance between the Sun and Earth were even slightly different on a cosmic scale, life on our planet could not exist as it does today. A little closer, we'd burn. A little farther away, we'd freeze. It's the same thing inside the atoms. The electrons keep moving around the protons around the nucleus without sticking to them and without moving too far away. If they came too close, they would crash into the proton. If they went too far, they'd completely fly out of the atom completely, and once again, there would be nothing. But what we actually see is that this empty space is a wonder, something that goes beyond nature. It keeps the balance between the two opposites at the very same time, the force of the plus and the opposite force of the minus. And this empty space, which by itself has no form, no definition, nothing at all, is what holds that perfect balance between the two opposites. Like between day and night, between good and bad, between all the opposites that exist in our world, this empty space keeps the most perfect, most precise balance there is. There's no greater balance in the whole universe. That from the side of creation itself, all the matter and everything that exists is completely balanced. Matter is the base of the world. It's what everything is made of. And when we look at matter itself, not from the observer's side, but from the thing itself, we see that everything in creation is already in perfect balance. In other words, the root of creation is two opposites that are completely balanced. Soon we'll see what balanced really means, but even now we can see that this is the foundation of creation. Creation itself is balanced. The imbalance begins with us, with human beings, the ones who look at creation as it is from the outside. We aren't balanced, but creation is. For creation, a thing and its opposites are actually one and the same. And from that we can understand what this empty space really is. It's the state before the electron and the proton separate into two, into plus and minus. It's the state when they are still together, still one, the same thing. And the electron and the proton are the state of after, that separation from the empty space, where they are one and the same. They are two that are one. A plus and a minus, two opposites that stay balanced, that stay in exact balance. So we can really see something wonderful, that nature, the whole creation, the secret of the entire creation is completely balanced. Everything is balanced. And what does balance mean? which is also exactly what we need in every moment. From the side of reality itself, everything is in perfect balance, a balance so complete that the human mind can't even imagine it. The only problem is that there is a viewer, the human being who steps inside matter, inside creation itself, and we're not balanced by nature. How can we see that we're unbalanced by nature? And how can I even say something like that about all creation? Because the very fact that every person begins to show, what does that mean? It means who the person really is. Their true nature shows itself. Their essence is the person more technical, more creative, artistic. As a person keeps growing, we can see each person, who they really are, their essence, their true image. And the very fact that a person moves forward, trying to make their dreams and wishes real, whether they want or not, it puts them opposite, the other way around from the rest of the world. Why? Because if the person himself, the one who looks at reality from outside, were equally balanced to begin with, nothing about them could ever be seen. For example, if a person's left side and right side were exactly the same, they couldn't move, they couldn't walk, and nothing from their own self, their unique essence and form could ever appear. It couldn't be revealed. You can move only in the gap between opposites, left and right in this example. In other words, in order that a person's specific essence to be shown, the human mind had to split reality into two opposites, so that the world a person lives in and sees would look like a reality of two opposites, a thing and its opposite in their mind. And this is actually true, because as we said, the root of all creation, the root of all matter in the world, is really a thing and its opposite. We can see it in the atom. The atom, which is the root of all matter, includes both a thing and its opposite, a positive charge and a negative charge. But in the atom in all creation itself, these two opposites are one thing. They stay balanced because of the empty space between them. That space keeps the same exact distance between the plus and the minus. It lets the plus stay plus and the minus stay minus. Each side keeps its own power and doesn't cancel the force on the other side. That's balance. And that, and only that, is a balanced thing. So, through the secret of the empty space, which is the electron and the proton, the thing and its opposite, before they move from potential to actual, that in itself, now, after they've come into action, makes us see them as two opposites, a negative charge and a positive charge. In creation, this foundation is perfectly balanced, but a human being can't be balanced from the start, because if a person were balanced from the beginning, if everything inside you was equal and you already accepted all your opposites from the start, then nothing about your true nature, your own unique personal identity, could ever be shown. It means that one side is hidden from us, the side we don't like, the side we don't accept, the side we can't stand. These are the moments in life that come to us as opposites, situations, people, or things that feel against us and make us upset and angry. Our mind must hide half of the picture from us, so the other half, our desire, our will, can move forward and try to make itself real. And then a person begins to see what was hidden inside him, what was there in potential, in his initial thought. But now, after a person has already walked this path and discovered who he really is, after the person has gone through the time when he had to see the world as a polar reality, a world of opposites, just so he could discover his own true self, his unique essence. Now, you need to understand that everything you saw as polar, as complete opposites, like hot and cold, plus and minus, like anything, was only there so we could come out of the shell break, out of the egg. And only when we break out of the egg do we know what the egg really was, what kind of bird, what kind of life was growing inside it. And that's why even science can't really deal with the empty space, because the empty space has no name. It's simply nothing, total absence. It's one giant nothing. And in that nothing, there's nothing. Or at least it seems that way. There's no way to approach it. It's beyond reach. So, where can we approach it? only through the two opposites, the proton and the electron. That's where science can come in, measure and explore what happens inside the proton, what happens inside the electrons. In other words, science will always deal with the two opposite poles. But in the middle, the secret of the empty space itself is something that's impossible to know. So why do scientists call it empty, an empty space? Because simply by being the observer, you can't see all the different combinations of things in the world and all the time that was, is and will be all at once. So, what is the empty space? The empty space is the absolute reality beyond time, where two poles seem like time, like past and future, as if there's a distance between the plus in the nucleus and the minus in the electrons. But only in the atom, where these two opposite sides are perfectly balanced, the empty space is revealed. That's exactly where it appears. And what is empty space? It's the absolute reality, a place where there is no time. So why can't we really deal with the empty space? Why can't we understand what it is? Because the empty space is actually everything. And what is everything? It includes all combinations, all forms and images of every person, every creature, of everything that exists in creation from the beginning until the endless time. That's the reality beyond time. Now, let's go back to the paradox we mentioned before. If 99.999% of all matter is empty space, then how can we sit on a chair and not fall through it? We don't fall through because our mind always works in a polar way, in opposites, right and left. Our mind always holds onto the two sides, the electron and the proton, the thing and its opposite, but without balance. And because we see and hold the two opposites, we can sit on the chair. But in truth, a person who can bring their life into full balance, where their will and everything opposite to their will becomes equal, like the proton and the electrons inside the atom that makes up all matter in the world, such a person would actually fall through the chair. Not really fall, that's not the right word, but they could pass through all matter. They could pass through matter itself, through whatever matter hides from us now. For example, if a person is inside a house, the walls hide what's happening outside or inside the other rooms, and so on. And why does matter hide? Because a person follows only their own desire, goes with what they want and with what they care about. So, they move with just one side of creation. And when a person holds on to only one side, matter appears to them as something solid, something they can't pass through. But in truth, if a person could make themselves like matter, balanced, bring their mind into full balance, understand the space between a thing and its opposite, and make peace between them, then matter would become transparent. A person could see from one end of the world to the other. That's the secret of the empty space. It means that matter will not only be a wall, a barrier, a block, or something that hides, like a hard, solid thing, but matter itself will help a person pass through it and move into higher worlds beyond time. Why? Because beyond time is not just one reality. It's a reality that includes thousands upon thousands of endless realities that are all beyond time. And like if we take atoms that make up something like iron or wood, the empty space between those atoms is a special kind of reality, a reality beyond time, one that fits in balance with that specific material. But in another kind of material, one that is higher or lower, the empty space there, even though it seems like the same nothing, will appear in a different aspect, a lower or higher aspect, meaning it will include more and more combinations and states of what was, what is, and what will be. There's no need to go into endless deep theories, and as we can see, in this teaching, you could keep digging deeper and deeper without end. Because really, everything can be explained in a simple way, how the basic structure works, the structure that all of creation stands on, the one that actually holds all of reality, which it's the combinations of matter that appear through this world. Everything can be learned in a simple way, from the foundation and the root of matter, the atom. So once again, from here, come endless principles to live by. Because, for example, someone who understands this sees that you can't really blame any other person, not anyone, or anything that happens in your life. Why? Because, like we said, reality itself is always and forever balanced. Like we said, the total charge at the base of all matter in the world is always zero, and only we, from being the observer, through our own imbalance, bring upon ourselves things and states that stand opposite us, and everything that's upside down in our life, things that go against our will, and all the people we seem not to like and appear to be the very opposite of us. It means that everything is just about making things right. It's only about putting yourself right. There's no need to fix the situation, or to fix the other person, or to argue with anyone. We need to understand that our opposite comes only to balance us, so that our two opposite sides will become equal, so that we'll become like the matter itself. This is what's called the renewal of the world, a future aspect when matter will no longer hide, because if we are in balance with matter, we'll enter the space between the opposites. Why? Because when I connect my own will with the will that's opposite to mine, or my love for something specific with the side that seems to be against it, and I can also understand and live both sides, then I become balanced too. And then my awareness, my mind, moves in the middle between the opposites within the empty space. And when that happens, the matter no longer hides. It begins to reveal. A person will be able to pass through a wall, through matter itself, and from here we'll keep talking without end. I just wanted, and I'm really sorry for talking for so long, to say everything in just a few, to understand the root of it all. Because if a person really wants to understand something, anything, to know it in its absolute truth, they have to, quote, make every effort, using all their strength, to understand to the root of this story. Because when a person understands the root, they'll understand the whole story. Take a simple example. Imagine someone has a leak in the kitchen. The pipe under the sink keeps leaking, and he keeps wiping the water with a rag, cleaning again and again. And while doing that, he builds theories about the world. What's this mess? Why is it like that? One time the dirt looks like this, sometimes like that. He just needs to stop for a moment and think, where's the leak really coming from? Then he goes, changes the small rubber ring inside the pipe, gets to the root of the problem, and everything is solved. So I wanted to show one unifying foundation, a single root behind all the theories in the world, behind everything. We always have to go back to the root of things. There's no other way. And in the simplest way, we see that the root and the base of all of creation. What is all of creation? It's all the people in the world, not only in this generation, but in all generations that were, and in all the generations to come. All of creation, in every time, every situation, every season, every moment, in every object, every kind of person, every type of religion, gender and nationality, mineral, vegetable, animal and human. Everything, absolutely everything, comes from this one foundation. We'll call it the atom. And the atom, as we said, is in perfect balance, because matter, the positive side, perfectly fits and balances itself with its negative side, and the other way around. And that's why the empty space can be revealed there. Because what is the empty space? It's the reality beyond time. When can it be revealed? When, here in this world, when the observer, he has peace between the two opposites, exactly as we see it in the atom. Because it's two polar forces, precisely because their opposites are completely balanced. That's where scientists discovered the empty space. And why can't a person see the empty space in their own life? Alright, let's look at it now. I also want to see the empty space within matter. But our eyes don't let us see it. You can see air, and air seems clear, even transparent, but air is still matter. Air is not empty space. So why Can't we see the empty space, the reality that is beyond time, that exists inside our world? It's because of our consciousness, mind, which by its nature is polar. And that's why I can sit on a chair and I can use matter for my needs. But in absolute truth, the moment when I bring myself into balance, when I make my left side equal to my right side, when I bring the opposites inside my mind into perfect balance, then, in that moment, matter disappears, and the person enters into the worlds beyond time higher and higher, beyond all time. So, what does it mean, a reality beyond time? To really explain that we'd need at least 1,000,000 years to talk about it. But let's take the simplest example, something we all care about, money or making a living. What would normally take us 120 years, a full lifetime, may God bless us with long and healthy lives, earn a certain amount of money, in a reality beyond time, even in the smallest reality, a person could make that same amount in 15 minutes of this world's time. That's the simplest effect. There are endless results, also in the quality of time. The higher the level of time rises, the more its quality changes, it becomes different. And as the quality of time changes, it means that the two forces, the opposites, will always stay in balance. But in each higher state, the force of life, the power of good, will always grow stronger. And this is something we'll have to talk about some other time. This is the main rule and the foundation that everything depends on. A person has to bring himself into balance, into the same balance that exists in nature, which is already perfectly balanced. There is no flaw in nature. What we call a flaw isn't really a flaw. It exists only because we are observers, so that a person can turn himself into one side, to come out from the infinite, to step out from the reality that is beyond all time, to step outside and be revealed from within himself. But that's not the purpose. It isn't the end. It's only the beginning. Now, after a person has revealed himself, which by its nature is only one side, his own will in creation, now, when he understands this, all this, the purpose of it all is to return and reconnect all the opposites he was separated from in the beginning, when he had no shape, no image, no form, nothing had yet been revealed at all. Now, the moment a person remembers this, and slowly he can little by little start to connect the opposites, then when you return to the reality beyond time, you can remember yourself within the reality beyond time. Now, when I say to connect the opposites, it may sound like something huge, and it really is. Because how could a person ever make himself equal with the mind of all people in the world to balance everything and join it all together? True, it's a big thing. But everything starts from the smallest thing. What is the smallest thing? It starts right inside our own home. You bought a new tablecloth, or maybe not even a new one, and you had your morning coffee. Suddenly, you got a phone call, or something distracts you, boom, the coffee spills all over the tablecloth, leaving a stain that can't be removed. Right away, without even noticing, you let out a juicy curse, get angry, and so on. What does it mean? The problem isn't the anger itself, that you got upset over this small incident, or that your kid or your wife annoyed you, or that you were stuck in traffic, whatever it was. The moment reality upsets us, our anger shows us one thing, that we are out of balance, that we are still holding on to one side and believing in it 100%, obviously, because it's us. And when something comes along that's opposite of our will, we express it with anger and frustration. So the anger itself is not the thing. It's just a mirror showing us that we haven't yet balanced the thing and its opposite. We haven't yet made the opposites equal, the very foundation and root of all creation, which is made of matter. But what is matter really? Matter exists in the eyes of the observer. He'll always look at it from only one angle, from one side. For example, there are people with dark skin and people with light skin. Of course, this is only for the sake of example, black and white. So, because the one who is dark sees reality in one way, and the one who is light sees it in the opposite way. That itself, the very act of looking, of being the observer, meaning looking at creation from one side, is what makes matter appear to me. But if I could look at creation in balance, if I could see the thing and at its opposite as equal, then matter would immediately disappear, and only the empty space inside it would remain, a world beyond time. And then I would see higher matter. What is that higher matter? This higher matter is matter whose empty space inside it contains more opposites, a greater strength of opposites. And that's why it appears to me as matter, because when the opposite is stronger, I can't make peace with it yet. I can make peace only with what's already balanced in my mind, but what isn't yet balanced still appears to me as matter, as if seen only from one side of the human mind, which is always polar and opposing. And as a person continues to balance and make peace with all the different aspects and opposites in their world, they reach a state where they're called a human being, a true person. What is a true person? One who can rule over matter and can rule over time itself. And this very state, when a person reaches it, only this and nothing else, is what's called freedom, true freedom, eternal freedom for a human being. Because everything we usually call redemption or freedom is only in a borrowed name, a borrowed word, not the real one. For now, I might have freedom, but if I haven't yet unlocked the secret of time, which is the thing and its opposite at the same time, the place that's beyond time, then it's clear that if I have freedom now, sooner or later, whether I like it or not, its opposite will come. A kind of slavery, the opposite of what I now call freedom. And how can we see this in a simple way? There's no such a reality, but let's say that a person is always happy, completely happy, all his life. Still, by the very nature of how the world exists, such a state is impossible. It just can't be. Why? Because a person must have good times and then not so good times. This is the aspect of the opposites in our mind. It's what makes us look at the world in opposite ways, and it's also what allows us to feel matter, to sense it, and to live inside this life of ours. But let's say, just for the sake of example, that everything in life is good all the time. That's called freedom. A person has money, we think that means he's free and has everything. Of course, according to this teaching, that's complete nonsense. Not that money isn't needed, it is. According to this teaching, money is necessary, but that's another matter. Why? Because really, at the end of the day, at the end of the story, who rules over whom? Do we rule over time, or does time rule over us? No one has ever succumbed in ruling over time, not the rich, not the poor, not one side or the other side, not black, not white, not man or woman, not any nation or people. All the opposites in the world, every one of us is only one single side of two opposites. That's why we have never managed to rule over time, and that can't be called freedom. And a person who once saw themselves as very beautiful, very young, full of energy, with strength and everything, in the end, at the end of the story, time rules over us. Every day, when a person does something, every action he takes, in the very same moment, he also loses that very act. Why? Because the moment you do something, in the next second, you also lose a second of your life at that exact time. In the end, after all the wisdom, after everything, a person grows old. His strength and life force slowly fade away. He begins to visit doctors, God forbid to take pills, to deal with illness. His beauty starts to fade, his skin wrinkles, and there's no trace left of the days of his youth, when he was young and handsome, strong and full of life. We start to wrinkle, get more wrinkles, and then some more, until we return, in a way, to the beginning, and then we can see that reality, time, rules over us. So why does time rule over us and not the other way around? Because reality itself is truly beyond time. The proton is equal in its electric power to that of the electron. And when they're balanced, the empty space is revealed, the reality that's beyond time. But we, as observers, aren't balanced. And being unbalanced means that one side moves only with one side and not with the other. That's the meaning of a person moving with time, along the timeline, from past to future, only on one side, and not on both. He moves with time. So, it's clear that if the atom itself is balanced, then creation itself is beyond time. But why can't we see it? Because we can see only one side. And when we see only one side, reality appears to us as matter, just like we see it today. But if we reach balance, like that same balance that exists in reality itself, then after we've discovered ourselves, understanding what our purpose is, what our form is, and what our will is in this world, we have to understand one more thing. We need to realize that this will is only one out of the endless number of wills that exist. And now I have to connect my will with everything that seems opposite to me, in order to return, in a way, to become like the atom again, to return to the root of creation, where everything is equal within me. And then, in a reality where everything is equal inside me, the empty space, the reality that's beyond time, can be revealed to us right here, within the time of this very life. This is the whole secret, in just a simple half hour. It's truly the foundation and root of all the teachings in the world, all the research, all the science, and all the wisdom that exists everywhere. If a person would stop for a moment and truly look into this, they'd see that we have an amazing opening, a doorway that has never been opened to us before, a way to break out, get out of this terrible cage, the cage of slavery, the slavery of time. Because time rules over us, and we don't rule over time. And that's why it's impossible today to call people free. In the end, time will always take its toll. Time will always be made of two sides, good and bad, the thing and its opposite. Because truly, the difference between one thing and another, the difference between one person and another, or between me being in my own country or in another country, all these differences exist only when we relate to a thing, to my will, and to its opposite. So, just as there's a great distance between me and what is opposite, to me, that same distance appears to us, for example, as the distance between one country and another. But inside the empty space, which is a reality that is beyond time and therefore, by its nature, also beyond place, this difference doesn't exist. Because the empty space passes through all the matter in the world, the empty space that exists in one place is the very same empty space that exists in another place, in another country, in another person. So, in the empty space, there's no space and no time, because everything is the same place and the same time. And this empty space, which passes through, exists within, and holds all the matter in the world, is present everywhere. But this isn't the case with what seems to us as a thing and its opposite, where the thing appears here and its opposite seems to be somewhere else. And all of this is very difficult and heavy for the human mind to truly accept and understand. Why? Because the very way the human mind works is that it can only see a thing and its opposite. It always sees the two ends, either plus or minus, north or south, right or left. But to understand how left and right are actually the same place, that they're really one and the same, that the human mind simply can't grasp and understand. Yet, through the revelation of a new wisdom, it will become possible for a person to understand all this and to actually live it fully in real everyday life. And now, let's go back to the beginning where we opened this whole idea. We said that in the end, reality is 3 and 4. What does that mean? The 3 is the very nature of existence, the essence of all matter that exists in the world we walk through and live in. And this 3 is balanced. As we said, the plus equals the minus, meaning the two opposing forces are really one and the same. It's only when a person observes from the outside that it seems to him in his mind as if they're two opposites. So that the matter itself, the very matter of all nature, because it holds perfect balance between a thing and its opposite, naturally, by its very nature, exists beyond time. In other words, nature itself isn't inside time. That's the three. What's the four? The fourth, is the observer. That's us, the ones who look at nature and act within it. And that's what's called the observer. And because, by nature, the observer, that's us, has no balance between the opposites, between the two polar points, between all the opposites in life, that's why reality looks as if there is time when we look at matter. So once again, the three is matter itself, where time truly does not exist. But from the side of the observer, the one who looks at matter, he sees it according to his own lack of balance between all the opposites in the world. His mind, whether he wants to or not, interprets it as a thing and its opposite. And that's why a person also feels time. But really, the greatest wisdom of all is to learn how to move from being the observer, the one who looks at reality from outside, to becoming the very thing itself.
New life, David.
Woman, your eyes are full of hesitation. Sure makes me wonder if you know what you're looking for. Baby, you need to find your hidden woman. And here's the secret: just free your mind and let go. Oh, woman, you can boogie, but you need a certain song. Sleep and beauty, now it's man's duty to play the song.